This is episode number 6 of Trusted Heard Live. I'm your host, Brian Fox, and with us today, we have the wonderful owner of InVogue Marketing, Brittany Menestrina. Welcome, Brittany.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for taking this call one state away in Indiana, as I'm in Chicago. Let's see here. So Trusted Heard Live, just to give everyone a quick little rundown. Came up with it early last week. Thought, wouldn't it be great with this little downtime that we could learn a little bit about these agencies that we see all the time and we apply for, but we really know nothing about them. And certainly nothing really about the owners. So with this time, I started reaching out, and every day this week, every weekday, we will have a different agency and owner and entrepreneur on the show, which is really, really exciting. So with that being said, we can just jump right into it and run through it. And I should mention for everyone watching, if you have any questions that you want answered along the way, drop them in the comments section. Please give this a share to your own page, to your favorite group, and let's go. So Brittany, we'll start with the really, really hard questions. Nothing to do with event marketing. What are your hobbies? What are you doing when you're not doing anything event-based?
So that is really difficult. My life really, really focuses around events, and a lot of people that know me know that because I teach at the college level event marketing. I help all of my friends with their companies anytime people have questions about like PR or marketing or how to even just communicate to their public. I feel like that's all of my conversations always are, or somehow they lead down that road. So when I'm not doing that, I spend my time with my 2 puppies. I have amazing dogs. I have an American Eskimo.
Nice.
And then I got stuck with the dog because of all of this. I bought my mom a puppy in February. Well, I didn't buy her. I got her for my brother. My brother's dog had a litter. It's an Ozador, so it's an Australian Shepherd.
Okay.
And then the mom is a chocolate lab.
Ah.
So I was like, okay, cool. I'll keep her for like a month and then I'll bring her out. And obviously my flight was on March 27th. So now I'm straddled with the dog. So now I have 2 puppies and I just play with them.
Are they getting along together?
So they weren't at first because Princess is very spoiled and very bratty. But now Princess is cool with her.
But now
sometimes.
It's like Woody and Buzz in Toy Story. Now they're best friends.
Yes, now they are best friends.
Cool.
As long as the puppy doesn't get too close to wherever Princess is sitting. Princess is next to me.
And I was super impressed by this. So when we were talking a little bit earlier before we jumped on here, you also have a background in electrical engineering, correct?
I do. So funny story with that. So my dad growing up, I grew up with 2 dads. I was super, super blessed to have my dad and my stepdad both very active in my life. So my stepdad is an electrician. And when I moved to Indiana and I bought my house, the basement was unfinished. So I was like, oh, we can just finish this and I can do the electrical work. I've kind of grown up around it. And I think everybody thought it was a joke. Yeah. That I was going to go and actually get like a license. And I didn't obviously go through, the 4 years that it takes to like go into a hospital and do electrical work. But I am licensed to do home electrical work as long as I don't tell anybody that I'm like certified. But I have an Indiana license to do it at home. So yeah, so today I guess my hobby was putting in a new thermostat.
There you go. So anyone watching in Indiana, whether you want to work for InVogue Marketing later or you need Brittany to come out and do a house call, hit her up. We'll get her email later. Very, very cool. How about this? Let's imagine right now that we're out at an event with a lot of people, because that would be great. And we just met and you're like, hey, I have this company called InVogue Marketing. How would you explain it to me?
So InVogue Marketing is your answer to being able to communicate with your consumers. I think that's the biggest thing that people have difficulty with is really having that face-to-face communication that's more than just, oh, here's a sample. Like you want to have something that is meaningful, that they're going to go back and kind of be your word of mouth brand ambassador afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we focus a lot on training to make sure that our staff knows the product, knows the consumer, and we help and work together with you to craft a message that makes sense.
That's
so
great.
Even though a lot of people look at us as like we're just a staffing agency, we make sure that we take the time of understanding your target audience so that you're not just out there hoping to see if the spaghetti will stick on the wall.
Yeah. That's really great. The part about taking the time to understand your business, especially, as I think we're about to get into that a little bit more, and kind of how that has maybe a little bit extra meaning for you because you've been doing it so long. So before you got into the event world at age 7, what were you doing before then?
Gymnastics, and not thinking that I had to go to work with my parents.
So how did you get into events?
So my dad worked for Farm Bureau Insurance.
Okay.
He sold insurance, and then he moved over to a company called Bliss McKnight. So Bliss McKnight sold insurance to cities and towns. So with him, we would have to go to different trade shows, and I basically was the booth child, I guess, instead of a booth babe, being like, hey, give me your info.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with my mom's company, which was she owns a financial planning firm out in Orange County. So when I got into high school, I started doing DECA. I was really, really active in DECA. If you don't know what DECA is, it's a marketing association for students. It's amazing. It was probably the best part of high school for me. But I wanted to get a little bit more involved because I knew that was kind of the path that I was going down.
Yeah.
So with my mom, I really kind of took ownership during high school working for her. And I would help her put up and register for different events. So we would go to festivals, we'd go to fairs. And then we used to do these direct mailers where we would invite people to come to Olive Garden. So they would come to Olive Garden, they'd get a free meal. She'd kind of give her 45-minute spiel of why she is amazing. And she really is. So if you're looking for somebody, she's awesome. But everybody loves her. And then I would help make sure that people understood what the next steps were. What were the call to action?
Yeah.
So kind of did that. And I didn't even know that experiential marketing, brand ambassadors, I didn't know that world existed until probably 7 years after that. Okay. No, not that long, but from when I started, yeah. So I didn't know about brand ambassador work until end of college.
Okay, so you're a little bit almost more traditionally groomed in traditional marketing landscape and some trade shows and that kind of stuff. What was your first experience with experiential marketing towards the end of college?
So I graduated in 2009, and I graduated with a public relations degree. And there's no jobs, at all. And I had a friend that owned an agency. So I went and did just a regional photo shoot. And they were like, oh, you really like to talk to people. We're going to have these road shows set up in Costco, selling this product. And they're like, it'd be really cool. You could be there and you'd have your little picture up. And I was like, sure, why not? I mean, I can't make my student loan payment anyways. So I started doing a road show, and that was okay. But I think the first experience that really kind of lit a fire for me with experiential marketing was this soccer tournament.
Okay.
So I got hired for it, and nobody told me anything about it except for, hey, show up here, wear khakis. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I just go and they don't tell me anything. And I'm like, hi, I'm Brittany. Like, are you who I'm supposed to be with? I mean, nobody else is here. It's 5 a.m. Like, gotta be you guys. And they were like, yeah, we're building this entire tent. And it wasn't like a 10 by 10 tent. Like, this was like heavy beams. And I remember I was just kind of looking at them. I was like, no, like I'm supposed, like I'm a promo model. And somebody looked at me and they were like, okay, princess. And I was just like, I was so taken back by that because I was just like, well, I was like, it's not like I'm trying to be like, oh, I'm too good to do that. It's just, I had no idea, you know, and this was like the second time that I'd actually come out for a live event. And I think that somebody like telling me that like I couldn't do it, like, oh, you're a princess and you're too prissy, like made me like really drive it hard. So like I got into like doing tours and like everything where it's like I was carrying like 90-pound rigs like by myself, being like, let's go, guys. Like, so I don't know, I worked for like a dance company where we did that for like 6 months straight with like the little dance mom people.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting. The soccer story, I'm sure, is one that many will relate to, as getting sent somewhere and saying, "Are you the person I need to talk to?"
yeah.
All right. So at that point, you're starting to get a little bit more into experiential. At what moment in doing all these string of events did you go, "Hey, I think I want to start a company and do this under my own umbrella"?
I didn't think about starting a company. Like I played with the idea every now and then, but I've been in staffing for years before I started mine.
Okay.
And like I thought about it and I was like, no, I'm good. Like I don't want all of the issues. There's so much that I still don't understand. And it really wasn't until, you know, maybe 12 hours before I started my company that I was like, no, I'm doing this.
Was there a tipping point there of like in that 12 hour? What happened?
Yeah. I had, so a lot of people, if you've been in the agent or in the industry for years, I'm sure you've seen me associated with tons of different agencies, and every agency has been amazing and a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a specific one that I kind of came in and helped from the ground up, and I had lost my father. And I remember I took some time off and I was getting a bunch of text messages from like our staff and they were like, hey, we're not being paid or nobody is answering. And I'd seen that a lot in different agencies that I worked for. And it's very frustrating. And I'm sure all account managers can tell you this. It's really frustrating when we get those emails because we're not usually associated with anybody in HR.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like all we can really do is kind of forward it on.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting like all of these texts and all of these emails from people just having issues with their events. And when I came back to work, I remember being like, hey, like I want to go to therapy. I need to talk to somebody about trying to help work through this with losing my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I start coming in a little bit earlier and leaving earlier just on Tuesdays? And they were like, well, why don't you go home, you know, think about it. And I remember coming back the next day and they had a press release and a severance check for me.
Wow.
And they were like, we think that you need to take some time. And they were like, you know, we're just letting you know, like, this is where we stand. Like, we love you. And, you know, just take some time. And I was just kind of like, okay, I'll take some time.
Yeah.
Right to California.gov. And I was just like, you know what, I'm over it. You know, I feel like a lot of times some agencies will take the human out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that like kind of 12 hours, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing jumping in. Like I
Was
knew all the staffing stuff, but I knew none of the business development. I didn't know what to charge people. I knew what to pay people.
in those couple agencies leading up to that moment, what were, I guess, one or two or three of the things that you go, not the bad stuff, but like, this is something that if I do this in the future, I want to make sure it's part of my identity or company?
Yeah, so I think that you can relate to this one very much. It came from Marketing Works.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with Marketing Works for a long time, not on the agency side, but on the talent side.
Okay.
And I was with them for one campaign for like a year, and I worked it full time. You know, I was a salary position with them. And I worked with Brian Bullock with it, amazing person.
Yep.
And the one thing that I really liked that Marketing Works does and does right is they let the talent and their client work collaboratively.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually working with the client one-on-one, day in, day out. Brian was really just kind of checking in with me every once in a while, being like, hey, like, you know, how are things going? Let's get some reports. I need this, I need that. And he'd be on some of our conference calls, but my client, Jeff Curtis, I mean, was calling me all the time. He was where I was getting my instruction from. So that was one thing that I thought was really great, because
Yeah.
I've worked on the talent side where, you know, I didn't know who to talk to. I was even sometimes discouraged to talk to the client.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't make sense, because I was like, well, if we want to get it done the right way. So definitely learn that from Marketing Works of like, hey, like, you know, I'm going to have open communication. I'm going to have my clients there at trainings. Everybody has everybody's phone number, because we're all trying to do the same thing, right? We all have an end goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was something that I thought was really great from Marketing Works. Like Marketing Works, I can't praise enough. They used to be like my favorite in the whole wide world.
It was so interesting growing up there, really, in the industry, because when you referenced 2009 and you talked about graduating college and there just not being those jobs there, I remember that time because I was at the agency then, and we were actually doubling in size, 2008 to 2009 to 2010, and they had this mentality of like, everyone who works in this office needs to go out on the road and do a tour so you can better understand what the people on tour are experiencing. And not like, we're not talking about like the big stuff, right? Like something has gone massively wrong, this huge storm came through. It's the small stuff. The small details are what make tours, and understanding those small moments can make everything go much smoother. So real quick before we move on here, another part that I really enjoyed that you just spoke to was, I remember I went for another interview after a couple years at Marketing Works. I think it was at Momentum. And I'll never forget sitting in the room and they go, all right, great. This all sounds wonderful. You have to pick which side you want to be on. And I go, what do you mean pick which side? And they go, well, you can either be on the account team or you can be on the production team. And I go, can you explain the difference? And they're like, well, the account team is in the office and they're all the client relations and all that. The production team is traveling out to the events in the field, working with clients out in the field. And that was the one, it was like this almost non-starting point for me at that moment, because I was like, I so enjoy the freedom and the trust that I was getting from Marketing Works of, you can wear all the hats, right? And you can learn and you can grow. And, to this day, like the people who I was working there with have gone on and done some incredible stuff all throughout the event industry at other agencies or brands. And I'm a firm believer it started because they gave you that ability that you talked about. And Brian is an incredible person also. Yeah.
You have to have that. You have to have that understanding, because then if you get a phone call, you don't know how to fix it. And if your team doesn't have that, then you don't. Like our team, like some of our internal, like we go out, we work events. I worked an event recently back in January, and it was so nice because like I usually don't tell people like who I am, because what's the point? Like I'm trying to just teach you guys to be like amazing leaders in this industry.
Yeah.
And I probably got the biggest compliment. She was like, "You're like one of the best team leads I've ever had." And I was just like, yes.
It's
Thank you.
Yeah. One of those
But I think I actually told her, I think I got a little cocky. I think I was like, "Oh, I'm actually the owner." And I didn't mean to be cocky with it. I was just trying to like tell her, but it was a huge compliment.
It was like an episode of Undercover Boss, but you're just playing yourself, right?
Yeah. But you have to do that. You have to stay fresh.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's almost refreshing to get out and be in the field working at events. So really good on the purpose and the mission. Where did InVogue Marketing, the name, come from?
Oh, it still makes me cringe. Couldn't come up with a name. So when I actually started, it was just Brittany Menestrina.
Okay.
It was just Brittany Menestrina. Yep, that's it. I was paying people from my personal bank account. My boyfriend, who's now my fiance, like he was telling me, he's like, "You can't write people personal checks." I was like, "Why? What's the problem?" Like, he's like, "You can't do this." So everybody kept telling me, they were like, "Come up with a name." So I think I really overthought it too much, and I have staffed either on contract basis or on or working like directly for an agency. So I have like 20 different emails. So I was like going through it. I was like, is there anything in here? Because I would usually name them off of whatever brand we were working with.
Yeah.
When it was like contract. So it's like if it was like a Victoria's Secret campaign, it'd be like Brittany VS, you know. So there was one that was called Vogue Promo Models, and I was like, And I'm a huge fan of both Madonna and InVogue. And I think one day I was running and it like came on, and it was really strange because it was like the Madonna, you know, where she's like, strike pose, Vogue, you know, and then an InVogue song came on right after. And I was like, you know what? Sure, let's just go with it. Kind of wish I would have changed it to just be like IVM. I don't know. I'm terrible with picking out names. Terrible.
You could abbreviate and have a secondary logo or a secondary mark.
You know, I've tried, but I don't know.
And you just keep coming back.
I just keep coming back because I'm like, you know what? It's there.
Yeah.
And it was so sad because when we actually first got it, the email had a space. So now we own the domain that's InVogue Marketing. But at the beginning, we could only get InVogue Marketing. So like my email is so long. I'm so happy I went with Brittany though, instead of like B Menestrina at InVogue-marketing.com. Like, I don't know. I'm stuck to being in a spelling bee for the rest of my life.
That's one of the things though that, you know, it doesn't get brought up often, but when you do start a company, you do have to think about like the URL and your email address and getting access to that and making it easy for people. I guess I'm very fortunate that I have 3 bubbles from Iowa testing that I had to fill out in elementary school for Fox. But and then how about the actual logo itself? Because I really like it. It like reminds me of the spiral graph that you did as a kid, right? Where did the logo come from?
So the logo I actually am happy about, and I'll always be happy about. So the logo really is supposed to represent something coming full circle, right? So my biggest goal with any brand that I work with is really more about the people that I work with, right? So I want to make sure that no matter where you start, you're going to keep it going. So you're going to get better and better, and then you're going to bring somebody else into experiential marketing, because that's how this all works.
Yeah.
It's almost like a weird multi-level marketing, but nobody gets, you know, bankrupt at the end. But you always bring somebody else in. So it's supposed to be like somebody brings you in and you get better. And then you teach that skill to somebody else and then they get better. And you just keep going.
That is really cool. I really
So,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I love our logo. And that's why when I think about like IVM, I'm like, well, how would our logo work with that?
Yeah.
Because I do want to keep that because that is very, very important to me because, you know, even though, because I always say like, you always learn from the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easy to always celebrate when things go well, but you grow when it doesn't. So, you know, I feel like my dot started when that guy was like, when I was like, oh, we're doing this. Why? Like, I'm a pro about it. You know, like he started my dot. I was like, no, you're going to get better. And you're going to have that student mentality and you're going to learn how to do other things. And you're going to show up being like, yeah, what am I learning today? What am I doing today? And just have that excitement.
Yeah, that is such a cool story. I really enjoyed that. And so we have the name from jogging and Madonna and InVogue. We have the,
Oh, God.
the incredible
So bad.
we have the incredible logo, which really does tell the story of experiential marketing. So we have all this. Where did your first client come from? Do you remember that moment or who that was?
Yes. So my first client was actually like a really huge compliment. So they had hit me up. I had worked as a trade show model for them doing lead generation.
Okay.
And they randomly called me like within that first week because when we started, it was like right after like kind of CES, and they like called me and was like, hey, like, we want to go ahead and see if you can just do this show for us without having to like go through anybody.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, well, and I was really apprehensive because I know that from being on the account management side, like there's a lot of no-nos there.
Right.
So I like asked her for more details and she's like, well, like our contract is up. She was like, and I actually just moved to a new company. She's like, we don't have a budget. She's like, but I wanted to see if you could come and help us. And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, as long as it's okay. And I even called the agency because I'd worked for them for like 6-7 years and I didn't want to like mess anything up. So I called them like, hey, does this clear on your end? Because I'm not trying to do anything to mess up our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me that it did. She was like, it does. She was like, she did leave that company. And she's like, so you're fine. Like, if you want to go. So about, I don't know, maybe a couple days before the event, she called me and was like, hey, like, do you have a couple people that you could do it, that could come to work? And I was like, well, I was like, I actually just started an agency. I was like, would you be interested in like running it through that?
Yeah.
And she said, yes. And I was just kind of like, oh, yay, high five.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. And how long ago was that?
5 years ago now.
All right. 5 years. Super. How about in that 5-year stretch and in that first moment of that client coming on board, have you had one project in that time where you, I don't know, pinch yourself or you're like, I can't believe we're doing this or this is so cool for my company?
Yes. I got a phone call after CES in 2018. I think it was 2018. Yeah, maybe. Think so. I got a phone call and they were like, hey, we were so impressed with what you guys did at CES. We have a gig in Spain, in Barcelona, in 2 weeks. Can you get us a team of like 16 people and can you guys come? And I was like, what's your budget? Like, because like getting people to Spain and they were like, handle it, just do it. And I was just like, this isn't real life. And I think the team that we took over, because a lot of people that work with me, like they know this, I use the same people over and over. So, I mean, we pulled people from across the nation for this that went over to Spain. And I think all of us, while we were over there, we were like, this isn't real life.
Yeah.
And I think that we've had a lot of those opportunities because of the culture that we make at InVogue Marketing, to where we travel a lot as a family,
Yeah. No, it's really just a cool moment. I'm sure there were so many things racing through your head when you got that phone call. Like, my passport, is that up to date? I mean, just everything, right? Did the people need to be bilingual that you were bringing?
So we needed to have the majority be bilingual,
Okay.
which I can order pizza in another language. So I really, really relied on my bilingual staff, and the people that I took over there were amazing. And I think that's the one thing that's great about this. You see people work in other industries and you're like, oh yeah, I worked for them. These people end up being your best friends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was able to take a handful of my best friends over to Spain with me.
That is so
cool. We had been maybe 5 years prior sharing a floor in somebody's, renting out somebody's living room for CES 5 years prior. Mm-hmm. And now we're in Spain. So
and now we're here.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, with all the people that you're bringing with and the family, culture and all of that, team is important. Can you tell us a little bit about team at InVogue Marketing?
Yes. So I absolutely love my team. And that goes all the way down to brand ambassadors. It's really funny. I have a really good memory. So I remember people, I remember things that people tell me, situations that they're going through. I truly look at our team as everybody, all the way down to brand ambassadors. We are a W-2 company, so everybody technically is an employee. Yeah. But our internal team is awesome. We have Kylie, who she's in Indiana. Kel is out in California. And then my favorite one right now would definitely have to be Rachel. She is in Chicago. So Rachel started with us, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. And she's done some amazing work with us. She's actually going through to be a nurse. So she works as a CNA right now, and she's just out there being amazingly fantastic. So she'll work with us on when we have bigger programs or we need more help. She comes on board and does a little bit of internship through us. Yeah. And I can't gush enough about Rachel. Oh my God, I love her.
Let's see. So we talked a little bit about your team, and you've had quite a journey from doing this at a very, very young age to currently right now. Are there certain habits or things that you can't teach that you feel, hey, I kind of excel at this because I have this in me?
No, I don't. I think that there's innate characteristics, but I do believe that everything is teachable. If you come and you have a student mentality, there's not a special thing that, oh, this makes me me and you can't be me. No.
Yeah. That's cool.
No, I like it. I think that probably the only thing that is personality based that may not be able to be taught is learning to ride the waves. You are going to always have really amazing things happen. You might have very difficult things happen. And it's knowing to always stay steady and just ride it. I think that I do see that sometimes with staff and sometimes with my own employees. And I used to kind of have it where I would make personal issues come into my workplace. Mm-hmm. So probably just that. But I mean, again, I think that everything can be taught, everything that can be learned. If you want something and you put the dedication to it, you're good.
You're good. I like that analogy, ride the wave. It seems like in all these episodes, there is one catchphrase that I think we should all put on shirts. And and sell in the Trusted Herd Live store that doesn't exist. So,
I'll take a hoodie. I love me some hoodies.
So in riding the wave, I think that's like a really good mindset. Is there something Brittany Menestrina would say to younger Brittany that you wish maybe you learned faster?
Check my ego at the door.
It's good.
I think that I wish that I would have learned that. I did have the advantage of being in the marketing industry at a very young age. You know, I was out there talking and networking with people, you know, when I was in middle school. You know, I was learning how to do this. And then I did DECA, you know, like I got this big head because like I remember the first year I did DECA, like I won state first place with state, like then I won like state vice president, you know, so it's like I did these things and I got such a big head that I stopped wanting to learn.
Mm. Mm.
So I felt like there was probably a good 3 or 4 years while I was working just primarily really like as a brand ambassador, not on the staffing side, but as a brand ambassador, as a tour manager. I felt like I had an ego. I felt like I was like, oh no, I've done this and I've done that and I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, we're all human.
We're all human. Right. Exactly.
So that would probably be the only thing because I felt like I should have taken advantage of some lessons that I could have really learned then.
Yeah.
And some people that I had access to that I could have learned them from.
Yeah. That's such a good mindset though. And a good lesson for everyone watching right now. And we'll be watching later on is that in this industry, you do have the ability to work with a lot of different companies, a lot of different account managers, a lot of different team leads, brand ambassadors across the board. Like, learn from them. Take the best of what you find in each individual and bring that with you. And even the worst, right? And say, I didn't really like the way that made me feel. I want to make sure I never go out and kind of give that off to anybody else. Okay, good stuff. Last few questions here.
Okay.
One piece of advice that you would give to event workers, what would it be?
Update, let somebody take your profile picture for you.
There it is.
Stand with a blank wall and let somebody take it for you. Even if it's you putting it on like a selfie stick tripod.
Yeah.
I work a lot. I get questions a lot from people. They're like, I've applied and, you know, like I don't even get phone calls. And if you haven't noticed it already, but I look at my clients, they're my partners. Like back in the day, like I had to take everybody because I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do that.
Right.
But now I'm very particular with who we actually partner with. Who are we working with? Do you have this right mindset? Are you going to treat my employees good? And are you going to help them elevate your brand? You know, are you going to give them the tools?
Yeah.
So with that, there's some people that if I've worked with you before and your picture's not that great, I can go to bat with you all day. You know, I could be like, no, like I know them. But if I haven't really worked with you yet, and yes, your resume may look great. If you have a picture where you're like, or, you know, you can't do selfies. Don't do selfies. Selfies will not get you because I go on with my clients. I put together a look deck. And if you have a selfie, you will never go on the look deck.
Yeah. There you go. There's your easy tip of the day. Find somebody, make sure you're social distancing and you're 6 feet away unless they're in the same household, and get that picture and make sure there's no hand or arm extended in it.
And also update them. As you change your hair or whatever, update them.
Yeah.
And take anything down that's old.
I've started to
So
grow
we
my
went from like a redhead to a blonde, take it down. You're not a redhead anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so on the workers front, we just talked about piece of advice. Is there any specific traits or personalities that you look for with people that you want to bring on your team, especially knowing that your team is like your family and you want to make sure that these individuals start in this circle and they work their way around? Is there any specific things that you look for in a worker right away?
Yes. So communication skills. I still screen everyone that works for my company. Even if Kylie or Cal or Rachel has interviewed you, you will end up on a phone call with me. You have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
If I ask you a question and I'm like, oh yeah, tell me. And I always lead them to be like story type answers, you know? And if you give me one or two words,
Yeah.
no, if you can't open up to me, I can't get you to open up to other people. So you have to have great communication skills. You have to have a student mentality. And I like people one of my favorite questions that I ask people is I'm like, what do you want to get out of this?
Yeah.
You know, and I like hearing those stories. So I think one of my favorite ones that I just hired, this girl is going to be she's in school right now to be a medical engineer. And we booked her specifically for a brain symposium event. So it was brain surgeons. And it was like such a good fit. And I asked her, I was like, what are you hoping to get out of this? And she told me, she was like, right now, I've only really been around like my classmates and my peers.
Yeah.
And she was like, before I start going further in my education, I'd like to know how to handle myself around people that have been in this industry for years and years. I'd like to see how they operate.
Yeah.
And I was just like, done.
Right.
I want to make sure that people are always gaining something from it. It doesn't have to be, oh, I want to do this event because I'm trying to get up to being team lead. You know, and it can be as simple as that, but I really want people to get a soft skill out of each event.
Yeah, that's a really cool answer. I was like trying to think about it more and how there is something when you're in an interview on being interviewed by somebody, especially in this industry, where if you're giving 1 to 2 or 3 word answers, like you're going to be out in an event talking to people nonstop. Like I don't want my brand ambassador out there that's asked, hey, what's going on here? Oh, it's an event. You could just go right over there. Like you need to have that almost curiosity, right? And talking to people and playing that role. So how about
last one though. I do have to add this because this is something that I like to share with my team. And I picked this up from another company. Well, not from another company, from another trainer that I met at a company, was you have to be willing to be the best part of somebody's day. That's a big thing. So everybody that is out there with experiential marketing, we are extremely lucky not right now, but we're extremely lucky that we get to be out at events. We get paid to make people smile.
Yeah.
We get paid to educate people in a non-classroom setting. So you have to be willing to be the best part of somebody's day, because somebody could have had the worst day ever, but I'm walking down the street and I see you, Brian, and you have something for me. And you make that like a special, like, oh, hey, like I've been waiting for you. Have you heard about us here? You know, and it's just one of those things where like wanting to bring that light to somebody's day, you have to be willing to do that every time, consistently.
You know, that just made me think about this promotion that I did in New York City, in Manhattan, during rush hour of everyone trying to go home. And it was for Verizon. And I was like handing out these palm cards, guerrilla style, in front of a Verizon store, but still. And I just remember thinking like I was doing that on every single person, like, oh, I like that jacket, or oh, look at those shoes, like you're trying to do anything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just everybody in Manhattan, phone down or head down on the phone, sprinting right by you. And it almost became like this game of, can I just get one person to give me just one moment that I can say more than one word? But yeah, that's it's been a while since.
So when it happened, how did it make you feel?
Well, when I finally did get one person, oh, it made me feel incredible, right? But like the previous 35 people that just jetted right by me, and I think one person out of empathy had like stopped, that heard me talk to somebody walking next to them, and they go, "You must not be from around here. This is New York City. You're not going to get somebody to stop." And I was just like, is this where I take a train back to Chicago right now?
No, never give up.
Okay, so this question, when we first started asking it, was really event-based, but I think I've kind of moved on from that, and just in general, especially in this exact moment, there's people out there who do have a lot of time that are evaluating different opportunities out on the table, or directions that they should go. Any piece of advice for somebody who's maybe thinking about starting a business right now, or something that that they should do, or mindset?
So your mindset when starting a business should always be, what will this do for others? If you always have like a service mindset with it, you're going to be good. So evaluate whether or not you're doing this because you want to provide a service to all your stakeholders, not just, your clients, your consumers, your employees, your community. How are you going to play it to where you are bringing light to people?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second thing would be like, yo, do it.
Do it.
Do it. Because if not, then you're always going to be sitting there being like, well, what if? Well, what if this and what if that? Just do it. Take the jump now instead of being like, oh, 5 years ago, I should have bought Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to take those chances.
You have to. We should put "just do it" on a shirt.
Just do it. Yeah. And then we'll have Nike sue us.
Yeah.
They kind of got that one on lock.
They do have that one on lock, but it is such a good tagline, and it is
very,
very relevant
it's very relevant
for anybody.
But do it. You're not gonna. So one thing with me is that it did always cross my mind of starting an agency, and I had people ask me all the time. I remember I got in somebody's car once. They picked me up from LAX, and it was a couple of my girlfriends, and they all worked for different agencies, and they were like, hey, we should just start one. And I was like, why? I love my boss. I was like, why would I want to start an agency? I was like, I love what I do. I love what I do. I was like, I'm good. Like, why? And then I remember somebody asked me the same question like 3 years later, and I told them, I was like, I'm not ready. I don't know enough.
Yeah.
I don't know enough. You'll never know enough. Like, just get in there, start it, fall on your face. I do it weekly. I still get up. The bruises go away. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn. But if you really feel like it keeps coming to mind, then do it.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. It doesn't have to be event-based. And if you ever want to have conversations, hit me up. People do it all the time. Call me. I'll help you put together a little plan.
All right.
Done everything from trucks
to installing thermostats.
Thermostats, yeah. Let me know what you want to do.
All right. So we've gone through pretty much all the questions. This has been wonderful. One more question, because I do think there's this element that kind of goes back to what we first talked about way back when, was like, you want people to get something out of it, and there's like that learning and that teaching. what do you do outside of InVogue Marketing?
So outside of InVogue Marketing, I actually teach event planning, hospitality, and tourism at the college level. So I have a lot of fun doing that. I teach, So I teach every day, Monday through Friday. At college, I still do some speaking engagements here and there. And then I also still do public relations for other companies. So as long as it's usually more philanthropic, because that's really where my heart is just kind of helping people. It makes me feel better about life. I think that we should be grateful to have so much in a world with so little. So, yep. So I teach.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever say my last name, so it's not Professor Menestrina. I let them call me Brittany because it just makes it easier.
Well, any other, somebody said, how do we sign up for your classes? Do they need to enroll in the university or the college?
You do need to enroll in the university. So I currently teach at International Business College of Indianapolis. And currently we're doing everything online. They're usually in person, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to see what I can work out about getting some online courses.
Yeah.
And then my best friend, she actually teaches at FAU, and they have a hospitality certificate that they are giving out. They are waitlisted right now. So that is an online program that I do know is going on. And that's at FAU, which is Florida Atlantic University.
Near and dear. I mean, that's my degree, hotel management, hospitality.
Yeah. You in Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah. DECA school.
I actually had signed up, and I'm very, very jealous when I hear anyone who's had a great experience in DECA, because I did sign up and I had like a conflict the first meetup, and then I just never followed up on it. And I always, like, if there was one thing I could go back in college and do, it would have been DECA, because it was like perfectly aligned. I worked full time in high school because I just wanted to like be out in the workforce and get that experience. And like DECA was tailor fit for me. And next life, I'll get it. Cool. Well, Brittany, any parting words of wisdom or anything else that you want to talk about or say?
Well, so I'm not able to see who said it because it just says like Facebook user with how do we sign up for your classes. Honestly, I'm always down to teach. So if people are interested in doing some type of live stream, I would be happy to start doing like some YouTube stuff.
Cool.
I don't know how to do it, just so you know. I break technology left and right. I am very, very blessed to have my IT person share my house with me. So if people are interested in just kind of getting courses, it wouldn't be like a certificate, because unless you're going through the FAU or if you're enrolled in our college here. But if you just want to learn more, if people do have an interest, drop some comments in. And I mean, if we get enough, or if people DM me, and maybe it'll become a thing.
Yeah.
I have no problem teaching it. I think that everybody could benefit in knowing. I think that's the biggest disservice that we do for our workforce, is not telling them before they go what they're supposed to be doing and actually teaching it to them.
Yeah, I agree.
So the more you know.
The more you know. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for spending some of your Thursday on Trusted Herd Live.
I do have one question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
So I keep seeing all of these messages floating around that there's going to be some Trusted Herd swag coming out. When is that available?
I know. I need to, we're working right now with a friend to do some designs, and then I was going to put it up in the group to maybe do like pre-order. But yeah. Okay.
I want a jacket.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest and bringing it up. Cool. Well, every day this whole month, we're going to have a different company on here Tomorrow will be actually the first time we'll have 2 people on camera, or 3 people, including me. Tinsley and Eric with the Grayscale Agency. Monday is big agency out of Toronto, Cullum, with Fervent Events. Great guy. He's from Scotland. You'll really like him. And then Tuesday we have Dana Gilchrist with Hype Agency, who will be on. So again, thank you all for tuning in. And Brittany, thank you so much for telling your story about yourself and InVogue Marketing. And hope you all have enjoyed it.
Thank you. Can I answer this person's question just really quick?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so I see that somebody asked, may I ask a question about your perspective, what you see going forward when we get back from the national shutdown? So that is my perspective as far as what I hope. I hope that we do get back to normal. I think that a lot of businesses are seeing more and more that face-to-face consumer marketing does work best. So I do think that we will see that continue to grow. I don't see that going away. I do feel like trade shows and some concerts, they might change how we go about it or put limits or caps, which and that's just because I'm doing some public relations with some companies right now on that. And you'll still have it to where it's more breakout rooms, I think is what we'll see more of, as opposed to having the big expo hall. Then you'll have more breakout rooms just to kind of keep people protected, not have people all into one space, which will be just honestly more beneficial to the staffing, because then we'll need more directional staff. And we'll need more lead generators in different halls. So I do think that going forward, you will see event marketing pick up. Statistically, 2020 was going to be the highest spending for event marketing that they've seen since before the recession. So I don't think that you'll see that slow down. And what I hope people will be doing, which we have already implemented back in January, because I work a lot with international companies, is I changed our contracts up to where it's guaranteeing pay at a bigger block. So if anybody's ever been in an event where it's gotten canceled and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I promised you my time, like I should get paid. Everybody answers to everybody, and there's always all these different time frames. So I do see some force majeure being placed in with different time frames. So that's probably not a lot of mega events will be taking place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you will see contracts change up a little bit, and hopefully be more definitive for all parties involved, right? Yeah. Because there was so much that wasn't necessarily definitive before.
Right.
So, great question. I'm glad you saw that right there. Cool. Well, thank you, Brittany.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your face.
All right,
I can't wait to see everybody out there again. We'll be there soon.
All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow. Bye.